Hey everyone, today we're going to be taking a look at HP's Omen 32-inch 1440p FreeSync capable monitor. Okay, so before we jump in, let's take a look at some of the specifications. This is a 32-inch monitor. It has a resolution of 1440p, which is 2560 by 1440. It does contain an AMVA Plus panel. It has a maximum refresh rate of 75 Hz with a PPI of 91.8. It does have AMD's FreeSync technology, which works between 48 and 75 Hz. The default response time for this monitor is 7 milliseconds. However, it can be adjusted to as low as 5 milliseconds. I will also mention the monitor does not have a height adjustable stand. It is tilt only, and it also does not contain any speakers. So when we factor in a stand, the total height of the monitor is 20.5 inches, the depth is 7 inches, and the width is 29 inches. Looking at the back right side of the monitor, we have our menu button, our plus and minus selectors, and our power button. Alright, to the left of that, we have an AC adapter port for power. We also have a USB Type B connector for your uplink or upstream connector, and then we also have two USB Type A ports for downstream. The USB B connector can be connected to your computer, which will create a data link, allowing the two USB A ports to be used for data link as well. The far right USB port is also used for charging accessories as well. And further down we have two HDMI inputs, which I believe are HDMI 1.4, as well as a DisplayPort 1.2 port. I want to also make a note, while the stand doesn't have a height adjustment, it does have tilt. However, the stand itself is actually made out of steel and is quite sturdy, so don't expect any wobble when having this monitor set on your desk. Now, the first thing I noticed when using this monitor was how deep the blacks are. And that's one of the larger benefits of using an AMVA panel. I'm used to TM panels, IPS panels, and I'm actually coming from a PLS panel, and they don't even come close to how deep the blacks are on this panel. It's actually quite astonishing, and it's really great for gaming and other uses as well. And just firing up the Resident Evil 7 demo, you can see just how black the blacks are. The monitor also has very minimal backlight bleeding. I do notice a little bit in the lower left, but other than that, it's really not even noticeable whatsoever. It's pretty refreshing coming from the PLS panel, which was a Korean QNX panel, which had a fair amount of backlight bleeding. Now, I don't have the proper equipment to test sRGB coverage. HP does state that the panel does have 100% sRGB coverage. And honestly, with the camera that I'm using in this video, it doesn't do a very good job of replicating the colors. So whatever you see here is not going to be anything to go by whatsoever. A user over on the HardForum was able to calibrate the display using a Monkey calibrator. He was actually able to provide an ICC profile for FreeSync mode as well. On top of that, he's also able to give us the color settings for red, green, and blue, contrast, brightness, etc. If you're using a Radeon video card, this is most beneficial, but I'm using an NVIDIA card, and the settings still look great to me. Now, a common complaint for this monitor has been gray uniformity, or the dirty screen effect, and it's what you see on the screen here. It's essentially banding. It's these vertical bands that are shown here on the screen from side to side, and it is affected by your contrast levels. For some users, it's a large nuisance. For others, it's not a big deal. As you can see, this is what my monitor looks like. To me, it's not that big of a deal. I don't really notice it much. This is a common thing to be seen on this specific monitor. So for you NVIDIA users out there, I got some bad news for you. When you go into your change the resolution settings in your NVIDIA control panel, and you go ahead and change the the refresh rate to 75 Hz, and you go ahead and play some games, you might notice some skipping going on. Well, unfortunately, that's what's happening with this monitor. Any NVIDIA cards that you have connected to it experience frame skipping at 75 Hz. So just to kind of show this, I pulled up the Blur Busters test, and you'll see the spaceship on the top, which is running at 75 hertz. You'll notice that it's slightly skipping. It might not be that noticeable on this video, but it certainly is in real life. So I guess another or better test would be the scrolling test, the text scrolling test. I'll go ahead and show you an example of what the 60 frames per second looks like, and you'll notice that it's smooth going up, or scrolling down, shall I say. No problems there. On the far left, you have 60 frames per second. Now let's check out 75 hertz. Look to your left, you'll notice the text is skipping. So the correct way to do a frame skipping test is by using a DSLR camera and taking a picture of when you're on the frame skipping test. You take a picture and you're able to see evidence of the frame skipping. However, it's not even needed. You can see it with your naked eye. No DSLR test needed whatsoever. So unfortunately, that's just the way it is right now. There are some threads on the HP support forum that people are part of and trying to see if HP will fix it. However, I don't have high hopes. I hope I eat crow later on down the road, but I don't have high hopes for this ever being fixed for NVIDIA users. Now we can take a look at some response time settings. I did mention the default response time was 7 milliseconds. However, that can be adjusted to 5 milliseconds. So at the default setting, it is 7 milliseconds. I believe once you move it to the fast and up, it goes to 5 milliseconds. I've been toying around with this. I've established on my end that the faster setting is a setting that I like. If I set it to level 4, the fastest setting, I tend to notice some inverse ghosting. That's just me. It's kind of subjective. I can't prove it. Your results may vary if you get this monitor. I do notice that this monitor has more ghosting than I'm used to. Like I mentioned, I came from a QNX, a Korean panel PLS-based monitor, and it has actually had 8 milliseconds response time, and there was visibly no ghosting to my eye. But this monitor has less response time, and I do notice there is some ghosting. So if you're a competitive gamer, play a lot of CSGO, Dota, whatever it may be, this might not be the best monitor for you. But don't worry, it's not all bad. I will say the color reproduction of this monitor, again, is very good. It is very close to the PLS panel I came from, and the colors are vivid. I mean, it is beautiful. I know on screen here you're looking at this video, and the colors kind of look yellowish. They're kind of tinted yellow. It doesn't look that great. I did, however, provide a picture I took of me playing The Witcher with The Witcher 3, and you can see the difference in colors, with a camera taking a picture versus what I'm using to record this video. So the difference, it is a beautiful monitor. When you're playing games, you are very engrossed in it. The colors pop, the black levels are so deep. It is beautiful. So don't get me wrong, it's a great monitor for gaming, but it does have some side effects. So next up, we're going to take a look at FreeSync. Now, I mentioned I have an NVIDIA card, so I had to borrow a FreeSync compatible card from a buddy of mine. Went ahead and pulled up the windmill demo that AMD had shown off a number of years ago, and tried it out without VSync, without FreeSync, and the 55 frames per second, you could see that there's noticeable tearing. It's evident in the windmill, it's evident in this vertical red line going across. So when you enable FreeSync, it all disappears. It's magic. It works really well. I wouldn't say it's perfect. You still see a little stutter here and there, at least in this demo, but the red vertical line that goes across now is there's no tearing whatsoever. However, it has this weird little vibration to it. It's kind of weird. It shows up only on video, but in when you're sitting in front of the monitor, you don't see it. So I don't know. I don't know how to explain that, but you can definitely tell the motion is much improved, and it's pretty impressive. I did mention that the refresh rate for FreeSync on this monitor is 48 to 75 hertz. I was reading on the forums that some people use the CRU utility and are able to actually adjust the FreeSync minimum range to 30. So you can go as low as 30 and as high as 75. So pretty nice. Looks like it can be done on this monitor. I will say that if you do go beyond 75 hertz, you will notice some tearing in some games. Here I'm playing Plants vs. Zombies 2. I did go above 75 a couple times. I didn't really notice the tearing, but when I moved over to Star Wars Battlefront, it was more noticeable. So you might want to set a frame limiter to limit your frame rate to 75 hertz or even a little bit lower to ensure that you're not going to see any tearing. But the FreeSync experience in this monitor, with very little experience I have in FreeSync, was very impressive. I really enjoyed it. So hoping that Vega is everything it says it's going to be, and I might be changing out my 980 Ti for a Vega card so I could take advantage of it. Alright everyone, so we're going to be wrapping up this overview of this HP Omen 32, so I want to get a couple of things out of the way. You can buy these monitors brand new. I think they're around $400. 2016 Black Friday deals like $300, around that price, so you can probably find a good deal on them. I will say this monitor I'm showing you today is actually an eBay. It's a HP refurbished monitor. I bought it off of eBay for $249 with free shipping. Killer deal for this monitor. Now, by the time this video is showing, it may be at that price, it may not. I don't know. I'll link the seller here in the description so you can check it out. But the monitor came in nearly perfect condition. There was no scratches, no scrapes. The backlight hours actually said 0 on the monitor's information screen. However, that could have been reset by HP, and probably was. But really impressive. I will say, if you do order the refurbished model like I did, it only comes with an HDMI cable and a power adapter, so don't expect the VESA mount, which these monitors are capable of. Don't expect a DisplayPort cable either. So you should get basically the bare bones monitor, the adapter. They do throw an HDMI cable. Wow. So a couple of gripes I have with it is the ghosting is evident in games. I do notice it. I didn't think I would, but I do notice it. So if you play a lot of fast-paced games, a lot of Counter-Strike type games, competitive games, you may notice it. Is it really going to affect your performance? I don't know, but obviously it won't be as visually appetizing as it maybe should be. But I do notice a little bit of ghosting. The size can be overwhelming for most desks, I will say. I'd had to get used to it. My eyes are still kind of adjusting. So if you're used to like a 24-inch monitor and going to a 32, this might be like a huge, I mean, your face might blow up. So another negative thing I will say about it is that it's way, way, way too bright. This monitor is way too bright. It's killing my eyes over here. I mean, I have really sensitive eyes, and my eyes, I have to lower the brightness. I was setting it to 32, and then I went to 24, and then I went to 10. I mean, I had to lower it so much so my eyes wouldn't blow out of my head. I tried a lot of different settings. If you have sensitive eyes, it might be too much for you, but just throwing that out there. So that probably wraps it up with the negative things. Maybe some people might take issue with the PPI, being that it's essentially equivalent to a 1080p 24-inch display. For me, going from a 27-inch 1440 to a 32-inch 1440, it's not a huge difference to me. I don't really. Maybe you can see the pixels a bit more, but it's not that big of a deal. So that's kind of the negatives out of the way for me. The positives, I mean, there's a lot to say. I mean, obviously the size is a positive for a lot of people because gaming is so much more immersive. Like I said, the colors pop. When you have dynamic contrast enables, the games look just amazing. The 75 hertz refresh rate for AMD cards is a bonus. It's a plus. Unfortunately, if you're an NVIDIA owner, and you want 75 hertz, you might want to look elsewhere. But the monitor, for even if it was 300, even if it was 400 USD, I think it's well worth the asking price. I will say this is a refurbished model. I would not hesitate recommending this model whatsoever. I don't have any affiliation with the seller or anything like that. I just kind of bought it on a whim and pleasantly surprised. But I would say the thing I like mostly about this monitor is the color reproduction and the black levels. The black levels are so nice. For gaming, it's so much more immersive to have those deep blacks. I didn't really know what I was missing, so it's really nice to have that. Again, I do look forward to being able to use the 75 hertz option if I do tend to go with an AMD card. If I go with an AMD card in the future, I did a kind of a little comparison between 75 hertz, and I had my Qnix monitor overclocked to 96 hertz, and the difference is really not that much. It's kind of negligible. I didn't really notice a difference. So between 75 and 96, wasn't that big of a deal. So anyways, I think that kind of wraps it up. But if anybody has any questions about the monitor, anything I can answer, feel free to leave them in the comments. And I hope this video helped you out. And thanks for checking it out. Bye.